He's sort of underwater, and particularly on the economy, tariffs, and inflation, he's well underwater. You've still got some work to do in that front. A lot of people think that he's spending too much time on tariffs and not enough time on the economy and lowering prices. What do you say?
Well, I don't want to make things awkward for you, John, but it is our opinion that Fox News needs to fire its pollster. And I won't surprise you with that. I don't think you're surprised that I'm saying that. But the Fox News pollster has always been wrong about President Trump. They were the ones that said all summer long that Kamala Harris was going to be the 47th president of the United States. So we don't acknowledge any of that polling.
3,400 kilos of fentanyl since you've been your last 100 days, which saved, are you ready for this, media? 258 million lives. Kids are dying every day because they're taking this junk laced with something else. They don't know what they're taking. They think they're buying a Tylenol or an Adderall and a Xanax, and it's laced with fentanyl, and they're dropping dead, and no longer because of you, what you've done.
You know, this is shameless, unfiltered display of kissing Donald Trump's is enough to make any dictator blush. Stephen Miller, Pam Bondi, these people aren't just loyalists. They're political parasites. They feed off of Trump's power, not because they believe in anything, but because they want to stay close to it. The man could set the Constitution on fire on live television, and they'd still be first in line to praise the lighting. And this isn't just about ego stroking. It's about normalizing fascism in real time. If you don't believe me, just listen to what they say and how they say it. It's not patriotism. It is propaganda.
Be careful what you wish for when you wish for people's downfall. And that's what Democrats are doing. They're really hoping that the president will fail. And the American public is astute enough to know that that means that they want all of us to fail, that they don't care anything about us as citizens. Why would you vote for somebody who's rooting for the president who just came in on a mandate and came in on some big numbers, popularity, all of the battleground states? Why would you say that you want to go against that man when the voters put him there? Because you don't like the voters? Be careful what you wish for.
I also think it tells you everything about him that this is where he chooses to spend his 100th day. With the people of Macomb County, Michigan. How did he spend his 100th day during his first term? With the people of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and he skipped the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He's the only president to not have attended since the inception of that dinner. I think that shows you also why the media hates him. He doesn't play the DC game. This is an outsider. His only constituency is we, the people. It's the forgotten men and women who he has been messaging to since 2016, why he won.
Let's talk about the media for a second. Trump loves to claim he's hated by the media because he's an outsider, a man of the people, a threat to the elite. But let's cut the crap. Trump isn't hated because he's outside the system. He's hated because he's corroding it. The coverage is negative because the consequences of his decisions are negative. It's not bias, it's accountability. If the media had turned a blind eye to his cruelty, his corruption, his assaults on the truth, that would have been the real scandal. But instead, they told the truth, and Trump turned that into the enemy. And now his supporters believe any criticism of him is a lie. That is the most dangerous con of all.
I wanted to get your response on the leftist media. They're trying to hide the mugshots that are featured on the front lawn of rapists, murderers, pedophiles. What do you think of that? Aren't they proving to be the enemy of the people?
Well, I guess they are. I guess they are, right? Thank you. Who you with?
I like your hat, by the way.
Who you with?
The gateway pundit, sir.
I thought this was a really positive thing for our country when we've all been so divided. And not one of the mainstream media, NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, none of them, not one word about it. And I have to imagine that comes from the top. And I've just had enough with the mainstream media at this point. I believe truly they are public enemy number one for our country.
He doesn't just have MAGA media covering for him. He's got them inside the administration now. Far-right influencers like Gateway Pundit aren't just reporting on Trump. They're asking him questions from the White House briefing room. They're laundering his lies, framing them as truth, throwing Kid Rock filming campaign ads, and it starts to look less like an administration and more like a deranged reality show. But this isn't about entertainment. This is about softening the public to dictatorship. Because when you hear the same story over and over, unchallenged, it doesn't take long for the truth to vanish altogether.
In the White House, we are fully embracing new media. Trust in the mass media has fallen to record lows. Tens of millions of Americans are turning elsewhere to get their news and their information. That's why we've welcomed in openly independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, content creators, and we will continue to do so. President Trump and our White House also believe strongly in the First Amendment, which is why our team has restored the press passes of hundreds of journalists whose passes were wrongly revoked by the Biden administration.
Many of the news organizations that are represented in this room have marched in lockstep on false narratives, such as the Very Fine People hoax, the Covington smear, and now what's being called the Maryland Man hoax, where an MS-13 gang member adjudicated by 2 different judges, I believe, is just simply being referred to as a Maryland man over and over again. Now, in an effort from the White House to expand access to new companies, you've created this new media seat. So I'm wondering if you can comment on, following this expansion, you've had numerous outlets disparage the companies that you've had sit here, as well as the reporters. I'm wondering if you could comment on the unprofessional behavior, as well as elaborate if there's any plans to expand access to new companies.
Sure. Well, we certainly welcome diverse viewpoints in this room, which is one of the reasons we have you in here. And there's many new faces in this room in comparison to the previous administration.
I was wondering if you'd indulge me in a quick round of Trump trolling or Trump truthing.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, good.
Love it.
Rapid fire. Greenland joining America.
Definitely Trump truthing.
Canada becoming a 51st state.
Trump truthing all the way. And the Canadians would benefit greatly, let me tell you that.
Eliminating the IRS.
I think that is an optimistic goal, and the president, so I would say we're on the side of truthing there for sure, and the president, again, wants to see tax cuts, and he wants to see this massive revenue that we can gain from tariffs as well, which will create the external revenue service, so that's a definitive goal for sure.
And most importantly, Trump 2028.
Trump trolling, although the hats are flying off the shelves. Yes. Link, go ahead.
So one thing I've noticed in the first 100 days is that the White House is crawling with kids. You have a young, beautiful baby boy. There are babies everywhere. There's so many young folks on staff who have kids. But the last 4 years under Joe Biden, parents were really stressed and ravaged. They had to take on 2 or 3 extra jobs. Depression rates were up. Suicide rates were up. You're a very high-profile young mother who seems to juggle and balance it all beautifully. What advice do you have to young parents out there who are starting their careers, having kids, building families, and trying to find that balance so desperately?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. And first, to the heart of your premise, it's true. The president has empowered not just me as a young mother in this role, but there are so many new moms and dads on our senior staff in the West Wing, but also across the entire administration. There are working moms and dads who are owing our country public service for President Trump while raising young families. And the president really empowers us to do that. And I commend him for that. He doesn't get enough credit for it. But as for the president is implementing policies every day to uplift young families and young people.
And these MAGA reporters, well, they're not journalists, of course. They're performers. They've been handed VIP passes to the Trump White House because they don't challenge him. They echo him. It's a closed-loop feedback system where Trump sets the narrative, MAGA influencers regurgitate it, and their followers treat it as gospel. Take Tim Pool. He's not doing journalism. He's doing clickbait, cosplay with just enough faux neutral tone to confuse people who don't know better. These aren't reporters. They're MAGA, well, couriers in trucker hats. They are the infrastructure of the modern American propaganda state. The goal isn't just to deceive, it's to replace real journalism entirely.
Michigan. We were flying in here today, and I said, look at these farms. I got to get a farm in Michigan, because when you own as many libs as I do, you got to put a place to put them all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Scott.
Scott Jennings said the quiet part out loud. For a lot of these folks, the goal isn't justice, it isn't policy, it isn't even winning elections. It's owning the libs. Well, that's it. That's the mission. Turn every debate into a blood sport, every tragedy into a meme, every human being into a political punching bag. And the more outrageous the performance, the more points they score. That's why cruelty isn't a bug in MAGA world. It's the feature. And the base eats it up because they've been taught to hate empathy, to hate compassion, to hate facts. Because all of those things threaten the fragile illusion that Trump is their champion, not their con man. Let's talk about the chants, a crowd of Americans watching footage from El Salvador's Sikot mega prison, where prisoners are dehumanized, stripped, stacked like meat, abused, started chanting, USA, USA, like they were watching a football game. And Trump loved it because that's the society he wants. Not a land of laws, not a nation of values, a place where cruelty equals strength, where punishment is policy, where the spectacle of suffering is a campaign ad. That moment wasn't just disturbing, it was revealing because the crowd wasn't chanting for justice, they were chanting for vengeance. If you think that can't happen here, you haven't been paying attention. So here's the truth. Propaganda is only as powerful as the people willing to believe it. And right now, tens of millions of Americans want to believe it. They want the fantasy of Trump the savior more than they want the reality of democracy. But here's the good news. Millions more of us know better. We still believe in truth, in decency, in accountability. And the fight isn't over. It's just getting louder. So no, we won't normalize bootlicking like what you saw from Miller and Bondi. We won't stay silent while press access gets handed to MAGA YouTubers. And we won't stop exposing the real threat Trump poses to this country. Not now, not ever, period.